Hello my friends and welcome back. It's Monday, so happy Monday to you. We'll begin with great news today because so much happened. Last Saturday, so 2 days ago, was my bachelor's party. I don't know how you call it, like the party before you get married. I'm gonna get married in 2 weeks, and now I had my bachelor's party. I didn't think about Ukraine mostly, but so much happened. So today I'm glad I get to put you up to date with everything. Because, oh boy, we have firsts. These things have never happened before. We begin with a Russian airfield attacked, and not with some high-tech Western weapons. Very slow-flying Ukrainian drones, cheap and mass-producible. We have videos about them also. Mozdok airfield, or Mozdok. Sorry about the name, but it already sounds like something from Sauron's armies. Mozdok, the Empire of Evil. Yesterday morning, Russian information channels reported that drones had attacked the Mozdok airfield in North Ossetia, North Caucasus. Later, the attack was claimed by Ukrainian military intelligence, GUR, releasing a statement in the media through an anonymous source. This airfield is used by MiG-31 fighters, which launch Kinzhal missiles at Ukraine. Oh boy, I've been in Kiev one time when Kinzhal attack was done against Kiev. It was scary. They make a hell of a boom. Now this specific Kinzhal did not land because a Patriot system destroyed it, but you can hear the explosion in the air and it's scary. I was scared. Russian media gave the impression that all drones attacking the airport were destroyed. But this video shows the opposite. Now this is a video showing a Ukrainian slow and low flying drone hitting the Mozdok airfield, and we can hear small arms flyer. Let's just play it. Can you hear that? That really shows us the state of the Russian air defense in one of the most important locations. This is the location, the airfield, where Russian fighters fired the newest Russian missile against Ukraine, Kinzhal, meaning it's one of the more important Russian areas, strategic areas that need air defense, period, in all of Russia. What they have as air defense here is small arms fire. That's it. Small arms fire. No S-300, no S-400, no Pantsir. And how did it do? Well, you can see it in the video. I'll just pause it right here because I cannot show it anything else. I apologize. The links are in the description. You can go and check it out yourself. I'm just gonna say, knocked out cold, bada bim, bada boom. But my friends, Mozdok airfield was not the only target. The next target is truly the first in this war. You know how United States has mass production of F-35, the 5th generation stealth fighter that is the most invisible fighter in the world. Well, Russia supposedly has an Su-57. Supposedly, by their propaganda, it's a rival to the F-35, but we all know, and we've analyzed this for years actually now, that the Su-57 is a 4th generation fighter. Russians claim it's 5th generation fighter, but it lacks the stealth capabilities. Anyway, Russia has produced altogether about 20 of them, most of which are prototypes. It's like the T-14 Armata. Only prototypes produced, no mass production ongoing. Unlike the F-35, which thousands all across the world, over 1,000 have been made already. The first Su-57 was now destroyed by a Ukrainian drone. Slow-flying, low-flying, stupid, cheap drone. Ukrainian drone attack on an Su-57, the most modern Russian fighter aircraft in the Aktubinsk airbase. Aktubinsk. Damn these names in Russia. On the night of the 7th to 8th of June 2024, there was an attempted drone attack on a Russian Su-57 on the territory of Aktubinsk airfield in the Astrakhan region of Russia, located 600 kilometers or like 350 miles from the front line. Satellite images published by the main directorate of the intelligence of Ukraine show 2 traces of drone strikes directly next to the Su-57. However, the extent of the damage received by the fighter remains unclear. Well, not anymore. We have some Russian sources which I'm going to quote later to you. But let's go through this thread because it is juicy. This is the most expensive Russian fighter plane. The newest, the baddest. And it's destroyed. The location of the Aktubinsk Air Base, where there was an attempted drone attack on Russian Su-57 aircraft. And look at it, Aktubinsk right here. It's so far away. Volgograd is in between. Many big cities, Rostov-on-Don, which are supposed to have heavy concentration of Russian air defense, could not shoot down this drone. It just hit the biggest, the baddest Russian fighter. And that's the air base. And the issue with it is Russia doesn't really, they never built out hangars to the airfields because they never expected anybody to attack their territory. They're all parked outside, all of the planes. A couple of observations regarding the Su-57. The first is that if you look closely, you can see that the aircraft is located under the anti-drone net installed on the airfield. Anti-drone net? The second is the white spot that appeared on the hull of the Su-57 on the satellite imagery after the drone strikes. Yeah, what is that? We don't know, but we can only assume that it's part of the beautiful destruction. Now another side of the analysis, now I'm going to pivot away from the Su-57 for a moment. I mean, it's a beautiful, juicy target, but the fact that Russian air bases were attacked 2 days in a row with same low and slow flying Ukrainian drone. The main thing is that this attack for the second day in a row, Ukrainian UAVs have penetrated the defense of the airfields. Yesterday they broke through Mozdok. Today, Aktubinsk. They penetrate not with high-speed missiles, but with low and slow Ukrainian drones. Moreover, with a small number of drones. And this raises the question, where is the air defense of the airfield? And judging by the video from Mozdok, all air defense is anti-aircraft guns and a couple of Kalashnikovs. Now, this is not an isolated event. Again, it paints a picture of Russian air defense capabilities. Not that they were bad before the full-scale invasion. No, Russian air defense, they had a lot of S-300, S-400 and Pantsir S. The fact is Ukraine has been focusing them down, one by one, grinding them down, targeting them, and now there are major holes in the Russian air defense net, which is proved by that the Su-57, one of the biggest, juiciest targets, can be struck with very mass-producible, cheap and loud drones, which shows that Russian air defense is in a horrible state now. And another interesting fact that I already mentioned, the Aktubinsk air base in Astrakhan region is almost 600 kilometers from the current front line. The air base shares what most Russian air bases lack: airplane hangars. Almost all aerial vehicles are parked outside. It is the strongest indication that Russia never expected to be exposed to a swarm of drones destroying their parked planes. And it's not something you can just fix. All these things, infrastructure takes time. I'll continue on the same topic since there is so much evidence and it's so juicy. It's like, I would compare this to the destruction of the very first Russian Kinzhal missile by Patriot. I would compare this to the same way. Now this is a Russian source. I'll read it to you. The enemy hit the airfield Aktubinsk with the invisible drones. Unfortunately, not only the Su-57 was hit. According to our sources in the General Staff and the Aerospace Forces, enemy drones hit a fighter and two air defense systems in Aktubinsk, Pantsir S and S-300. The thing is, Pantsir S and S-300, they form the backbone of the Russian air defense capabilities. And if they cannot protect the targets against slow and cheap and loud Ukrainian UAVs, what can they do at all? Why do they exist? One installation is almost completely destroyed, the other one may be repaired. As for the Su-57, which was hit by drones, it received serious damage. It is now being determined whether it will be possible to repair it, but the plane definitely won't fly for about 6 months. Oh, So sad. I'm not sure it flew before because there are many instances where Russians are trying to fly these platforms, and since they're all prototypes, many of them like to spontaneously combust. You don't even need Ukraine to destroy Su-57s. Russians are doing a good job of that by themselves. And now, my friends, another hit on a Russian soil, and this time it's another first. So many firsts here. An ammunition storage in Belgorod was hit by a Ukrainian missile, fired from a Ukrainian plane. So this means this is the very first time a target on a Russian soil has been hit by a Ukrainian plane. Ukrainian warplane fires weapon at a target inside Russia for the first time. Another first. Now, my friends, I want to give you an opportunity. First of all, the last fundraiser I did, Combined Arms birthday party, where we bought Estonian Greitworks drones and cars. It was my birthday fundraiser with this patch, Arthur's Army. All of the patches have been sent out to nearly 300 donators. Your patch should be arrived within days. All sent out last week. But now, since the last fundraiser have been concluded, not only successfully, but now the patches have been sent out, I'm doing something differently with these fundraisers. Yes, fundraisers, because I'm joining forces with 5 different NATO fellas who have never fundraised so big. And we're joining forces, making joint fundraisers, joint campaigns. And each of the days of this week, I'll give you a different campaign. Each of the campaigns buy 1 truck for the armed forces of Ukraine. 5 days, 5 NATO fellas, 5 trucks. You pick your favorite or donate to all of them and you will receive another patch. You can start collecting them. You can see the patch right here, Ray Brandon 2, because this, of course, is Brandon Mitchell. Arthur Ray and Brandon Mitchell have joined forces in this first-of-a-kind joint campaign to buy a truck for the fire support company of the anti-tank platoon, 1st Battalion, 37th Separate Marine Brigade. Brandon was here last week and we did a podcast on this very same studio. It will come out today on Ray Podcast channel. Links in the description below. Also, this fundraiser link is in the description below. Go and donate, and if you donate more than 200 USD, I'm gonna send you this Ray Brandon number 2 patch. Brandon is a legendary Ukraine supporter, a volunteer medic, and he has saved countless lives in the stabilization points. The goal is 20,000. For this, Ukrainian forces will get 1 truck with night vision capabilities to drive on the zero line without headlights and 2 drone jammers on the back of it to make it as safe as possible against Russian kamikaze drones. Start collecting your Ray patches. They will all have numbers and a name according to the campaign. This is the first Brandon Mitchell. Tomorrow you get a new one. Hop on this, my friends. Thank you. My friends, the European Union Parliament elections have now concluded. Yesterday was the last voting day. In Estonia, almost 40% of the people took part of the elections. The turnout was 40, close to 40. And now we know who won the elections. Overall, it was won by a centrist forces, not far right, not far left, but centrist. But there are some instances which are worrying. Just to say it again, overall, all across Europe, pro-EU, pro-NATO center forces won the elections in a landslide. But, for example, in Germany, there are some negative surprises. For example, in the East Germany, in Saxony, which is one of the eastern parts of Germany, and they were under the Russian occupation during the Soviet times, they were the East Germany. 41% of the votes went to AfD, which is far right. They're Nazis. There's nothing, no hiding this. They are pure Nazis, far right. They're anti-NATO, anti-European Union, and they are pro-Russia. All of the pro-right forces, nationalist forces in Europe are pro-Russia. Even if they don't know it or they don't acknowledge it, saying, oh, I'm pro-Hungary or I'm pro-this and that, then Putin benefits from them being in Europe only for the fact that they are creating conflict, creating separation of European forces. This is already enough for Putin. And unfortunately, most pro-far-right electors from Europe don't acknowledge this, that even if the party is not straightly getting money from Putin, they are useful idiots who benefit Putin a lot. Unfortunately, AfD is one of them. But overall, these elections were very successful for European forces, for NATO, pro-NATO forces, and for the unity of Europe overall. I also went to elect, and all of my friends did. If somebody didn't, then we ridiculed them because we get to be a part of democracy. And I'm glad about that. There were so many hits over the weekend that I gotta just put them in two parts. Now we continue with Ukrainian hits on Russian soil, or actually it's Ukrainian soil, but not even soil, but waters, it's Ukrainian waters. Ukrainian naval drone attacked the tugboat Engineer Smirnov and the barge Section 179 in the Taganrog Bay. The barge has minor damage above the waterline and the tugboat has broken windows. Also, 2 crew members received light shrapnel injuries. You can see all of the footage on screen. And why is this important? Well, because grinding down Russian, what looks like to be non-military target, which is a transportation ferry or a tugboat or a barge, well, these actually are connected to military because they transport military logistics, also civilian logistics, which now have to be conducted over the Kerch Bridge once again. Looks like after 2 Kerch Strait rail ferries were damaged, Russia has resumed using the Kerch Bridge for military logistics. In the video, the train moves from occupied Crimea to Kuban, probably empty fuel tanks and something else. The thing is, the Kerch Bridge was never restored to the full capacity and the rails passing over it only had to be partially filled with oil or with tanks, whatever, ammunition, because the railway bridge cannot hold heavy weights. And the Russians have used this Plan B as ferry crossings, even train ferry crossings. They can put trains on ferries. Yes, it's crazy. Ukraine has now destroyed these capabilities, forcing Russians back onto the Kerch Bridge, which forces them into a very straight tunnel, which is very acceptable for Ukrainian attacks. Now attacking a Kerch Bridge makes sense again because Russia uses it for logistics again, because the ferries have been destroyed, and this is why Ukraine attacks these, what looks to be non-military targets of ferries and barges and railway ferries. I want to show you a very interesting map. A map that actually gives a lot of insight to why this war has been beneficial for Putin at the beginning. Well, right now these cards are off the table anyway, but at the beginning, first 1.5 years of war, why Putin could hold such big losses. Well, percentage of Russian men 18 to 49 years old who have participated in the Ukrainian war. Moscow and St. Petersburg have 0.2% of men having served, so almost nothing. The most impoverished, minority, dense areas have the highest rate of men who were shipped off to die. Check this out. 9.3%, and we see these areas right here, which are also main ethnically non-Russian areas in Russia and the poorest areas in Russia. Now, what does Putin achieve with killing this population by sending them to be meat? Putin achieves 3 things. First of all, he Russianizes Russia, increasing the ethnically Russian population in Russia and decreasing the non-Russian ethnic minorities in Russia by just sending them to die for his Russian imperialistic interests. Secondly, he empties the prisons, keeping Russian prisoners in the prison system. They have tens of thousands of them. One of the biggest percentages per capita is Russia. It's quite expensive for the state. Sending the prisoners to die, which are also mostly non-Russian ethnic minorities, also saves Putin money and kills off the non-Russian ethnic minorities for Russian imperialistic mindset. Again, the same reason. And third of all, he can expand the Russian Empire by not killing Russian population. Like for him, it was 3 big pluses for it. Of course, all these cards have now been used up. The prisons are mostly empty from those who want to go. The non-Russian ethnic minority areas, the kill-death ratio is 10% of the men who have gone to serve, mostly all into Storm Z, have perished. So no more volunteers from those areas, and they're now recruiting mostly from Africa. Thing is, Russia also, like Ukraine, has a manpower shortage. Not so acute, but still they do. And Putin has to think about mobilization. Now, if we go to the population pool of St. Petersburg and Moscow, there will be a huge reaction in Russia, because this is a Russian ethnicity. And they always have thought about themselves as the greater ethnicity in Russia, the first citizens. They wouldn't have to go to die in Ukraine for Putin. Let the Buryats go. We will see what happens, but if he touches St. Petersburg and Moscow, there will be consequences. And now, my friends, to the very last news, which is an analysis by Finnish NAFO-fella Joni Askola. I really like this because I do agree with this a lot. The Kharkiv offensive. It has been going on for 1 month for Russia, and we now can make some conclusions. Why they did it, what is the outcome, what's the benefit for Russia, what's the benefit for Ukraine, because yes, there is a lot of benefits for Ukraine in this Kharkiv offensive, although they lost about 5 square kilometers. When Russia initiated this offensive, it had 2 main objectives. The first, Russia's military objective, was to force Ukrainians to redirect some of its limited reserves to the north of Kharkiv in support of Russia's primary axis in the east near Chasiv Yar. Russia's second objective was political. It tried to establish a buffer zone to the north of Kharkiv, aiming to shield Belgorod from the incursions of Russian volunteer troops fighting for Ukraine, and to push Ukrainian artillery further away from the region. When assessing whether Ukraine relocated enough reserves to the north to support the main Russian axis around Chasiv Yar, we can consider the progress of Russian troops on the primary front. As they did not make progress, it suggests that this objective was not achieved, meaning that Russians were not able to advance to Chasiv Yar, even though Ukraine did redeploy Chasiv Yar units to north of Kharkiv, meaning the military point of this opening, the Kharkiv front, failed. The advancement have stopped, also in Chasiv Yar, also in Kharkiv. Both have failed. Let's look at the political reason. Up to this point, the sole tangible result of this offensive has been to prompt Ukraine's allies to reassess the 27-month-old policy allowing Ukraine to target Russian territory with Western weapons. This signifies a strategic blunder by Russia. Now, the West would never have allowed Ukraine to strike Russia with Western weapons so soon if there weren't this Russian offensive to Kharkiv. This offensive solely is responsible for it. So it's a massive military blunder by Russia because it didn't achieve its goals and it gave Ukraine more freedom to attack targets on Russian soil. And we see the results already, like all of the hits today on the Russian airfields. Of course, they were done with Ukrainian drones, but they could have been done with Western weapons also, because it is now allowed. Thank you, Joni Askola, for this great analysis. My friends, once again, I will give you 5 different fundraisers, 5 different profiles this week, 5 different NAFO fellas. We have everybody. I have picked people from all sides, all across the world, for you to support. They're all very much pro-Ukraine and have devoted their lives for Ukraine. This is why I'm working with them. But the first one is, of course, Brandon Mitchell. Go and donate. Link is in the description below. Let's buy 1 truck with Brandon to the 37th Marine Brigade, and you will get a badge for it. Thank you for doing this, my friends. This week I will not butcher Buy Me a Coffee names because these fundraisers are the main goal. I'm going back to Ukraine in summer. So by this time, these fundraisers have to be concluded and you can be part of it. Thank you for doing this, my friends. And until my next video, which will be tomorrow, Slava Ukraini, and bye-bye.